You're listening to the Renegade Blitz podcast, a podcast for Steelers fans by Steelers fans. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, read articles on renegadeblitz.com, and like us on Facebook. So the biggest NFL schedule release ever has come and gone, and we're here to talk about that alongside updates from rookie minicamp. Hi again, everybody. I'm Ty Polk, and that's Chris Ward. Welcome back to the Renegade Blitz. And Chris, last week it was very important and very big by the NFL standards schedule release because, you know, the biggest schedule release ever, 17th game, marketing, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, they make a whole day out of it. You know, they released the week one games on the morning shows. Like I think CBS morning show released the CBS games for week one. So we already knew the Steelers were going on the road against the Bills for week one. And then, you know, a bunch of games leaked out even before the schedule was released officially at 7:45 p.m. The Steelers released it. But most of the games kind of were figured out by then. You know, there was a ton of leaks out there. But you just didn't know for sure if that was when the Steelers were playing.
I gotta ask, like, how is it trying to, like, find this information? Like, I noticed that you guys were talking to Dove Kleiman in the DMs there. You actually posted that on Twitter, trying to figure out, like, what's going on with the Steelers schedule. Just, like, talk about what you guys had to do there to get the news out. Was there pinging notifications from certain people like Schefter and whatever?
Yeah, some of it was from big names. Some just kind of popped up on our Twitter account, or Bleachers Report too is a good source for anything that has, like, whenever Steelers is typed in, it kind of shows up on their feed. Any big news. A couple came out from some, like, bloggers, like SB Nation people, and I actually reached out to DM to a couple people to confirm some of those. Well, actually, it was only one game that I went out to reach for some from a beat writer and our radio host, and he said, yeah, that's the game for it. He said that was correct. I did reach out to a couple other people, but we weren't really kind of sure, like, because they weren't like per se like credentialed media or, like, you know, beat writers or so. But they actually had it correct though. Like, this guy said, you know, they sent it out to him, the schedule, it leaked, and he said that's when the Steelers were playing. So you know, he was right on that, but it's hard to know what's true and what's not. You know, there's a few fake ones out there that didn't end up being it. So you just kind of try to be careful as you can. And you always say, like, you know, this isn't official. The only official game that's been released so far is that week one game that came out on CBS.
Well, you expect week one to be released almost immediately because that's the big week. That's opening week. The part of the season where literally anything can happen from there on out. So, yeah. I kind of expected week one to be leaked out there. It's a shame because, again, for the 7th year in a row, the Steelers were open the season on the road. So, Chris, let's put it into perspective. In 2014, when the Steelers last opened up at home, I was a sophomore in college. You hadn't even gotten to Point Park yet. What else? Colin Kaepernick was still in the league. Alden Smith didn't have all of his suspensions, I think. Don't quote me on it. What else? Aaron Donald was, I think, in his second year in the league, something like that.
You know, Peter King in his weekly column, he said he didn't really see the big deal of the Steelers opening up on the road for the 7th consecutive year. He didn't understand why Steelers fans were so upset about it because, I mean, he said, like, you know, it's just 1 week, and that means that you have, like, more home games for the rest of the year. But
which is a bonus, but it's just that I'm seriously about to go, like, scrounge through schedules and figure out, like, what's the longest someone's ever gone without having the first game of the season at home. That's a good question right there. It's just that they opened up on the road in back-to-back years against Cleveland. Typically, if you're opening up against the same team, at some point, that's a home game. And that was with the Browns that were just flat out horrible to watch. I mean, you had Deshaun Kaiser at quarterback and Johnny Manziel, and they couldn't just decide, Yeah, give the Steelers another home game. Is it because Antonio Brown decided to Liu Kang kick a punter? Like, what's up?
The reason for it is that the Pirates they share a parking lot or a couple parking lots sections there with Heinz Field because they're not too far apart. And this year on Sunday, the opening Sunday of the NFL, the Pirates have a 105 game against the Nationals. So I wrote that about on the RenegadeBlitz.com and said, basically that's why the Steelers couldn't play on Sunday. They possibly could have had a Sunday night game. Might have been difficult. They could have put them on Monday night, open up against the Browns or something like that. But yeah, they're heading to Buffalo week 1, and that's a good question that you brought up about what's the longest streak ever in NFL history to not have a week 1 game. I know the Steelers right now with the 7 straight, it's by far the most compared to other teams.
It's certainly the most in probably recent history.
Yeah, recent history.
If my guess, it's probably like, I don't even know. Really, with 32 teams, even with 31, that's a difference. But I just can't see it. It's just after a while, you just have to go. You want ready-made drama? Put the Steelers in the Browns at Heinz Field, full capacity crowd, and say, run it back.
Yeah. I thought that would have been a good game. They ended up going with the Raiders and Ravens, right? I think that's the opening Monday night game. That's in Las Vegas too. So that makes sense for the
NFL. Full crowd, yeah. Vegas. They got a nightclub in the end zone.
Yeah, they want to. The NFL wants to promote that stadium, which is new, and also the Sunday night football opening week 1 game is the Bears at Rams, and they have.
Oh yeah, so I can see what they're doing there.
Yeah.
now I understand it. Them big Taj Mahals out there, and that Raiders stadium, on like the top of it looks like a Roomba, but inside it, at least watching it makes the Raiders look different. The jerseys and all that stuff. The black feels like it pops even more. The gray feels like it's less there than ever before. I guess it's the lack of sun. So, hey, I mean, it's a smart move, and I can see why they do that. 2 new stadiums that cost a ton of money that had virtually no one in those stadiums outside of personnel. Yeah, I guess you do want to put those 2 out there. So I don't blame them in the end.
Yeah, those should be good games to open the week. But moving on, I don't know. You want to go through the schedule quick, or we'll just break it? We'll break it down in quarters, I guess. But the Steelers, they open at home at Heinz Field against the Raiders, the 1 p.m. kickoff, and then the following week they're at home again against the Bengals in week 3, and then in week 4 they travel to Green Bay, which is kind of an interesting game, 4:25 p.m. Eastern time kickoff. All depends on Aaron Rodgers if he's going to be there or not. So
let's stop right there and talk about it, I guess. So again, if I want to go to Green Bay at any time of the year, I'll take it early in the season. I'll even take it in the first week of October because, it gets definitely cold up there. And while I have no qualms about professionals eventually figuring their ways out in the cold, if you can't play in any condition, like, what are you doing in this league? So that's going to be a good start to the season with them. I guess let's start with those first 4 games. Where do you see the Steelers' record at that point? I think that they'll actually get the first loss out of the way against Buffalo. It feels like something that's going to happen.
That's a tough game up there in Buffalo. And, Stephon Diggs, he tore them up last year. And the Steelers' quarterback situation is there's a couple question marks there. They're putting a lot of faith there in James Pierre and Justin Lane as their, slot quarterbacks, or they might move them to the outside and put Sutton into the slot when they go to their nickel package. But, that's a tough way to open the season at Buffalo. They lost their last 2 straight games against the Bills these last 2 seasons. But I think they'll go 2-2. I have to say, I'm guessing Rodgers is going to be there. So I'll say that they lose the week 1 game, and then they beat the Raiders and Bengals at Heinz Field, and then they lose in Green Bay. So they'll start off. They won't go 4-0 like last year. Obviously 11-0 to start the season, but I'll say 2-2 for the first 4 games.
I'm going to go on a hunch and actually say 3-1. I think they have enough gas to probably go into Green Bay and shock Green Bay, and that would be a really big deal. for them. So I'm gonna say at that point of the season, they're gonna be 3-1. Only losses to Buffalo. They take care of business against Vegas at home, even though Vegas, as the Oakland Raiders, tend to be a huge problem for the Steelers. So that's a lot of faith on one, just the way that team plays against the Raiders. And also the Cincinnati game, that's going to be the Mike Hilton return game. So that's going to be interesting to see him against the Steelers there. You have to wonder if he's going to be extra charged up for that game. And let's face it, he's going to be extra charged up for that
Maybe
game.
Steven Nelson, too. They said Jeremy Fowler of ESPN last week said that 14 teams have reached out to Nelson, and the Bengals were one of them. So that would make even things more interesting if Nelson were to end up with the Bengals.
He might end up with the Bills as well.
Yeah, the Bills.
I'm seeing a lot of Bills Twitter that I've been following, trying to get them some Steven Nelson. I guess maybe they figured, hey, we killed you last year. Why not come over here and go crush?
Yeah, that's a good point. There's some other teams they mentioned, but I think he would want to play for a contender. So
he's got to play for a contender. I actually think he could be the number 2 in Buffalo, but granted, I don't really know their corner situation out of Trey White and Josh Norman.
Yeah.
He could be a boundary corner for them, at least, and that's what he wants to be. And also, real quick, I want to mention this. I seen this from Nick Farabaugh. He mentioned a situation with the Steelers' dime package in which Sutton is still the nickel cornerback, but they instead have Joe Hayden on the outside, and I believe Pierre, if I remember off the top of my head, on the outside.
Yeah.
And with 6 DBs, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The money backer is Marcus Allen. And then safeties are Fitzpatrick and Edmonds.
Yeah, I think since they're kind of unsure of what they're going to do at slot cornerback, that's what they're probably going to do when they go to a nickel situation on third down, is probably kick Cam Sutton inside and then have Pierre play on the outside.
I do think that nickel cornerback is going to be one of those situations where the Steelers figure it out over the year, because eventually, I don't know if you can really have your second best cornerback consistently kicking from the inside to the outside to the inside to the outside.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's going to cause, like, even though I have a ton of faith in Cam Sutton's brain out there's just sometimes role overload that maybe in the back of my head goes like, shouldn't you just keep this guy in one position and say, you're going to be the future CB1, so why are you even coming out here in nickel situations?
Yeah, and that's a good point to see. You know, what they do with the nickel cornerback spot, they're going to have to develop some guys or hope that they step up. But it seems like they like Sutton as far. I don't know if they trust Pierre and Justin Lane enough to be their slot cornerback yet. So, but you know, that's remained to be seen. We'll have to see how training camp goes and, you know, the preseason games. But moving on here to the schedule, we'll go to the next the second quarter of the season. They're after the Green Bay game in Week 5. They're home against Denver, and then they have another home game. That's a 1 p.m. game against the Broncos, and then they're home again in Week 6, and they host the Seahawks on Sunday Night Football. And then they have their bye in Week 7, an early one, so they'll have to play 11 straight games to the end of the season. That should be interesting to see how that goes. And then after the bye, they play the Browns in Cleveland on Halloween. It's a 1 p.m. Kickoff. And then Week 9, they host the Bears on Monday Night Football. So, Ty, what do you think of those next 4 games in the Steelers set schedule?
Let's first say this. They're going to beat Denver. I do believe they could beat Denver. But Denver has like a really good secondary with Simmons back there as well. So that'll be a challenge, but
they have good receivers too, which is the quarterback situations. Maybe Rodgers ends up with Denver. Who knows?
They're still trying to figure out that situation. And ironically, in terms of what Green Bay wants to do with Rodgers, that would actually make the most sense because he said he wanted to be close to LA. Green Bay's not going to trade him in the conference. There's no chance in hell for that. So I guess the best situation for him is potentially Denver or even one of Las Vegas, but I think he'd be crazy if he go to the Raiders. That offensive line needs the Steelers' offensive line needs work. The Raiders just decided, let's just build rebuild all over, and I don't know about that one. So let's also take a look at the rest of, you say in the rest of that quadrant is at Cleveland and Chicago. So this is going to be the first situation where I formally expect them to drop this game against Cleveland.
Okay, yeah, at Cleveland.
I feel like even though this is going to be with the real team in Cleveland, this is going to be the first game, and the Browns are going to be charged up trying to make sure that they like kind of put a stamp on that situation, because the Steelers did lose to them in Cleveland, but that wasn't with the whole team. That's going to be their chance to really put a potential stamp on the Steelers in that situation. And plus, I think Cleveland will actually be doing well at this point of the season. So I will give them the loss there. They will beat rookie quarterback Justin Fields in Chicago. So yeah. So another 3-1 situation, I guess.
Yeah,
so they're 6-2.
Okay, given the Broncos quarterback situation, I'm going with the Steelers there in week 5 at home. Week 6, that's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be close, but Russell Wilson, his 2 games in his career against the Steelers, he's been unbelievable. His stats absolutely ridiculous when going up against the Steelers. But I think Seattle wins a close one here against the Steelers.
But that would be a color rush night. That has to be a color rush night.
That seems like it would be a color rush night for the Steelers. And then week 8 at Cleveland, and that's going to be a tough one. I'm going to go with Cleveland here. So the Steelers lose at Cleveland for the 3rd straight year. And then against, I guess Justin Fields probably would be the quarterback there in Chicago at this point. Week 9, I think the Steelers should win big here against Chicago week 9. So I have them splitting again with 2-2. So I have them at 4-4 so far.
And I have them at 6-2. Yeah. So I have a ton of confidence in the Steelers team.
Steelers fans are not going to like me at the end of this schedule. Steelers host the Lions in week 10. It's a 1 p.m. kickoff. Then they go on the road, travel pretty far out there west to Los Angeles. It's a cross-country road trip there. It's a Sunday night football game at the new SoFi Stadium. And then they come back, and they're on the road again against the Bengals. That's a 1 p.m. game in Cincinnati. And then their week 13 game, they play the Ravens, and that's a 4:25 p.m. game at Heinz Field.
That's going to be a win right there, 1 p.m. Detroit game right there. So the LA Chargers game, I'm actually going to say that's a loss for the Steelers. The at Cincinnati game, as much as I want to believe that Cincinnati's going to be doing something in the future, it's not right now for them. So that's a win for the Steelers. So right now they're 2-1 with that. And Baltimore at home against Baltimore, 4:25. You know what? I'll give them the win.
That's a home game too, at Heinz Field. And
I expect them to beat Baltimore at home. I don't expect them to do that on the road.
Yeah, they usually split. But Steelers did sweep them last year, but the Ravens had that COVID situation, and they came back to beat them when they played at Baltimore. But I won't have the Steelers beating the Lions. I think that the week 9 and week 10 against the Bears and Lions is kind of like the easy portion of the Steelers schedule, at least on paper. It should be. Charger game is going to be tough. For some reason, the NFL loves scheduling the Steelers and Chargers on Sunday Night Football. So the last 3 times they played, including this year's game, is going to be on Sunday night. And the last time they played the Chargers was that Sunday Night Football game in 2019 when they played at the soccer field there out in Southern California.
Oh, StubHub Center.
Yeah. So this game is going to be tough, but I'm actually going to flip it, and I will say the Steelers actually win out in California, Southern California, and then they're going to actually lose the Bengals in week 12, because Burrow's coming off that ACL injury. I don't know if he's going to be – he'll probably be ready in week 3, but, he probably might be a little bit rusty. But week 12, they're going to be he's going to be fully ready to go, I think.
Right.
The Bengals beat the Steelers last year at home. And
that was with a way lesser quarterback.
Yeah, with a way lesser quarterback. And but yeah, I think the Bengals kind of get upset there in week 12. And then in week 13, I want to say the Steelers, like you, I want to say that they're probably most likely going to split the Ravens. They always seem to do. So I'll say they win at home. So do I got another 2-2? So wow, I have them going back and forth here. So
I have them at a pretty solid, for all things considered, 8-3.
Yeah, I have them 6-6 right now.
I actually may be lying to myself. I might have them actually doing pretty well, but yeah. So let's move on. The next quadrant, I guess we'll finish off the season from here because it's 5 games with the new schedule. So it's not a 4. Okay, so they go on the road, a Thursday night game against Minnesota on December 9th. Then they come back home to face Tennessee at 1 p.m. Sunday, December 19th. Sunday, December 26th, a 4:25 game at Kansas City. Then in the new year, Monday, January 3rd, 8:15 at home against Cleveland. And then they finish up the season at Baltimore on Sunday, January 9th, a 1 p.m. game. I actually have them beating Minnesota for a Thursday night game. I think they lose to Tennessee. So that's now their 4th loss. They lose to Kansas City. That's their 5th. They beat Cleveland at home because that's the game they really need to beat.
Yeah.
That's the game they really need to beat Cleveland.
Yeah, did you have them losing at Cleveland also?
Yes. I had them losing at Cleveland right now.
So they're going to need to win that game there at home.
10-7. Okay, so here's what I have. I have them losing against Baltimore to end the season. So they split that. So they finish the season 10-7.
Okay. I think the NFL did the Steelers no favors by after a Ravens game. Even though it's at home, they're going to have to travel to the Vikings on a short week. So I want to have Minnesota win that game just because I think they're going to be beat up.
Yeah, that's the one thing. That's the one thing that I was also thinking about. It's like it's a beat up game after that, and it's like those Baltimore games are always going to be wars, and really you have to think of it like this: the entire division is not going to be really a cakewalk. I think there's going to be plenty of beat 'em up situations throughout any game in the AFC North. So
yeah,
that 10-7 is going to be hard earned.
Yeah, I think the Bengals, even though there might not be completely there, I think they're an up and rising team. And the way I'm going to have it, I'm going to have the Steelers splitting with all the AFC North teams. But Titans, we have Bud Dupree coming back to Pittsburgh there at Heinz Field. I think Derrick Henry's going to give them a challenge there in the run game. So I'm going to go with Tennessee winning here at Pittsburgh. And then at Kansas City, I'm not really too confident in this game just because Patrick Mahomes and at home, and they rebuilt that offensive line. So I think this game is going to be really tough. So I'm going to have the Chiefs winning. And then week 17, I think the Steelers come back and beat the Browns, so they split with them. And then week 18, 1 p.m. against the Ravens. Oh, yeah, that Browns game's on Monday Night Football as well to bring in the new year on January 3rd. But Baltimore at, the Ravens, Steelers playing them at Baltimore is always tough. So I'm just going to say I'm going to go with the Ravens. And just like all the rest of the AFC North teams, I'll have the Steelers splitting with them. So in total, I had them 6-6 going into the final 5 games. So I had them losing to the Vikings. And then so that's 1, 2. So I have them losing 4 of their 5. Yeah, so I have them going another collapse here. So I have them at 7-11. Does that sound right, Ty?
Oh, that would be the first losing season. That would be their first losing season since 2006.
Oh, 2003 actually.
What was I thought the 2006 season was 7-9.
They had their like 8-8, but they always seemed to they were.
I swear to God, the 2006 season was 7-9. I know that Bill Cowher didn't exactly end it roaring with that.
They beat the Bengals in Week 17. Remember the Santonio Holmes touchdown catch and run?
Wow.
Yeah, that's the only reason why they went 8-8, or they would have been 7-9. Going into Week 14, I have the Steelers at 6-6. Then I have them losing to the Vikings there on that short week after playing the Ravens. And then the final 4 games, I have them losing 3 out of 4. So in total, I have the Steelers going 7-10. So that'll be their first losing season since 2003.
So yeah, I have much more faith in the Steelers just because of the reasons, and I think I have them with that 10-7 somehow, some way, sneaking into the playoffs as the 7th seed. And here's my reasoning for it. When you go back and look at the Steelers prior to last season, where they were 11-5 and comfortably, in a way, comfortably the AFC North champions, I guess. This team always finished in and around 7th place. When you go back and look at their entire record under Mike Tomlin, their hard cap in terms of where they were seated at the end of the season, if there was a 7th playoff team, they would be in the playoffs. They wouldn't have missed the playoffs in the last couple years. So I'm always going to have this until they have to prove me outright wrong before I not say that they're going to be the 7th seed.
Yeah, I mean, I think having that early bye and playing 11 straight games, and after what happened last year with how Roethlisberger looked tired down the stretch, I mean, they have, a really tough schedule at the end of the game. End of the season, excuse me. Their final 4 games are against all playoff teams. I mean, that's a real tough stretch there. And Brooke Pryor of ESPN, she wrote that she thinks they're going to lose their final 4 games and then miss the playoffs because of that. So I kind of have a similar take. I have them beating the Browns in Week 17, so I have them losing 3 of their last 4. So kind of almost the same ordeal. But like I mentioned earlier, Steelers fans, they're not going to like me after this schedule release preview, having them finish 7-10.
I mean, they're not supposed to like us. It was all sunshine and rainbows. We were a first-year podcast, 11 straight wins. Everything is awesome.
Yeah.
Snap back to reality, man. It's back to reality for all of us right now. Until they absolutely prove to me they have no business in the playoffs, they're somehow going to be in and around that picture. And I still think the 7th seed is the magic number for them. They're going to sneak in there somehow, some way. It's going to be with help. I know this. They're going to need help if they're going to go in.
Yeah, it's, a lot of the pundits out there, Ryan Clark mentioned that he doesn't think the Steelers are going to make the playoffs. Jason Lockefour, who's never really been a fan of Ben Roethlisberger or the Steelers, he has them missing also, and he kind of pointed towards Roethlisberger's age and how he collapsed the whole team really did, but Roethlisberger really didn't look good down the stretch last year.
They have a better idea of who they are as a team. I think last year there was a lot of smoke and mirrors. They just have a better idea of who they are as a team. Those last 4 games, and really the last 6, to be honest with them, that was more of what you'll see from this team this year, with maybe a slight an improvement over it, only because they know who they are right now. They know that they're a team that if they make it into the playoffs, they're going to have to fight for every single yard, every single point, every single opportunity. That's going to be the difference between this team, at least giving them a shot. You're
right about last year. That 11-0 start was like too good to be true. Like you kind of had you figured that, like the way they were winning too was kind of like, remember that Cowboys game where they barely beat them and they had a backup quarterback in? It was just,
it was classic Steelers.
Yeah.
It's classic. It's classic. You're going to have to hold on to everything that you have until the final whistle. That was classic Steelers. You think back to the 13-3 team that got shocked by Jacksonville. It was the same feeling, but the difference, it's like the old saying with boxing, and I believe Chris Carter said it. It's harder to compete when you're sleeping on silk sheets. That's what the Steelers were. They were sleeping on silk sheets. We all were sleeping on silk sheets last year. That's why we couldn't exactly see, man, this team is doing a lot of things they did in that 13-3 season.
Yeah, it was just, speaking for last year, it seemed like it was going to eventually it was all going to come crashing down, and, it did. And they just had no run game, and hopefully with Najee Harris coming, they'll fix that department and getting that offensive line rebuild as well. So that kind of take us to our, we kind of covered the schedule there in detail, but now we'll move on to the rookie minicamp this past weekend. And what were your thoughts of it? You can't really tell too much about rookie minicamp. they didn't have as I believe they only had 34 players there because of they didn't have as many players trying out. But Najee Harris is the big story this week, and obviously being the Steelers' first round pick.
He has to be the big story, and really, he gives them a name at running back for the first time since Le'Veon Bell. And he's going to be doing a lot of Le'Veon Bell-esque things, which the Steelers really need at this point. They need someone that can do everything right now, and he can create his own runs, at least based off his college film. That's not always going to happen in the NFL. You hope it does, because that would really help the Steelers' cause. I feel much more confident about Najee Harris than I did with any running back in the Steelers stable last year.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think he's instantly an upgrade from James Conner. Just looking at the photos and everything and some of the videos, I know it's only rookie minicamp, but man, he looks lean and he looks shredded too. Like his arms, he's a tall running back. He's 6'2", 230 pounds. I mean, they're talking about they're going to spread him out in the slot, put him out wide at the X receiver position. So he's going to do a lot of, like you mentioned, those Le'Veon Bell type of stuff. And I'm really intrigued to see what offense coordinator Matt Canada does with him and how he implements him into the offense.
I said this about the Steelers offense last week with how they're also going to put in Pat Freiermuth along with 4 wide receivers. This is a new NFL where everyone has to do something on offense, but man, it's a lot of cooks in the kitchen for the Steelers. So what are they going to do? It's interesting to see that they want to still put Harris in the X receiver position, but that's going to put you in a lot of the same situations when it comes to contract time that you had with Le'Veon Bell. Yeah. You got away with it a little bit because of some of his transgressions off the field, the stupid weed rules for the NFL, which I will get into another time, and also injuries with him and just general worry about wear and tear. Yeah, Najee's a guy with his head on straight, so I don't expect any of those issues out of them. You never know what happens down the South Side, but that doesn't really matter.
Stay away from the South Side, especially at night. Huh. But yeah, that's I should say infamous Le'Veon Bell situation where he wanted to be paid like what was it like? Did he want to get paid like a number 1 wide receiver, or he wanted to get paid like
he wanted game-changing money at running back, man.
Yeah, he wanted to be paid like a wide receiver and then like a number 1 running back, which just I remember people were saying like you can't be in 2 different spots, or you can't like split Le'Veon Bell in half. But
it would have been nice.
Yeah, he was a great back, receiving back though. So it's going to be interesting to see with Najee Harris doing similar type of stuff. And he certainly displayed that in college. There's a bunch of film out there where throwing a screen pass and he takes it all the way for a touchdown, or even a back shoulder catch he made against Patrick Queen when he was at LSU, and now he's with the Ravens. Tua threw it to him, so it was like 2019. I posted the other day in an article, but yeah, it was an incredible catch there by Harris. But with Harris, how about that interesting media session he had where it kind of went viral with the Steelers? That was a pretty interesting situation there. Saying that he didn't know that the Steelers were, or let's see, let me start. Saying that he didn't know that the Steelers reporters were watching him. I guess they were up at the balcony there at the UPMC Sports, or at the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex.
He thought they were boosters, and honestly, I will say this about seeing some of the Pittsburgh media in action at some of my internships and stuff like that. They do kind of dress like, classic college boosters. Like, it's very casual out there. And unlike me, whenever I interned, I had to wear a suit and everything like that, no matter what in the arena. I had to look like I was actually someone. So, yeah, with those guys, they kind of dress like, like me and you kind of in a way. Like they blend in the crowd. They up there in those booths and stuff like that. So if Najee is saying that they looked like boosters, what does that mean for guys like you and me?
He would probably think we were, just.
He'd think we were interns or someone's kids.
Yeah, probably. Probably like you mentioned before, some schmucks just on the sidelines or whatever. But yeah,
He'd
that was
probably
a
be
really,
like, "Damn, they really just giving anyone field passes these
yeah,
days."
that's what he would probably be thinking. But Harris, that was a real fun interaction though he had with the media, kind of just messing around with because one of the reporters kind of mentioned that like he made a one-handed catch in practice and asked if like he like was that something new and like if he did that at Alabama and he said like bro what or something.
Yeah,
It's funnier in the video when he says it, but
can't wait till this town turns on him. The first TikTok video he's in.
that's a good point. I did see people mention that. They're all fun and laughter now, but how
He
long
drops a ball in the end zone. Suddenly, that love is not there anymore, man. I can see it right now. He's got everyone from Mark Madden all the way on down ready to pounce the first time he messes up and say, "Ha, I told you so. They shouldn't have spent a first-round pick on him." I can see it coming.
Other than that, with the Harris video that went viral, it really wasn't. I mean, there was some stuff. Freiermuth interviewed with the media, and same with Kendrick Green. Would you have any thoughts on that, or any other thoughts on the rookie minicamp?
Well, I'm not surprised that Freiermuth doesn't want to be called Baby Gronk. He wants to be his own man, and let's just face it. I think there comes a reputation with the nickname Gronk. You expect them to just be partying all the time, and while Penn State is a party school, I don't think you necessarily want that reputation for yourself, especially getting into the league like this. But I'm pretty sure he'll change his tone whenever he hears a Heath chant whenever he makes a catch.
Yeah,
I hope they don't do that to that man, but
if
they move,
yeah,
fry,
yeah,
I could see it right now.
I can see why he doesn't like the Baby Gronk nickname either, just because like he's in the NFL now and he wants to make it his own name. At Penn State, the college level, that's fine because he wore number 87. He was a tight end. He's from Massachusetts and he grew up a Patriots fan, so the nickname was kind of fitting. But now he's with the Steelers, and Baby Gronk probably wouldn't fly too well with Steeler fans there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he's wearing number 88 as well. And speaking of jersey numbers, by the way, Kendrick Green, no rest for that number 53, formerly occupied by Marquise Pouncey, as he's taking his college number. And there was a little bit of discussion about that. I'm pretty sure that that Kendrick Green talked to Pouncey about that, being that it is a college number, and yes, that number just did come out of circulation with Pouncey. He talked to him already, so I imagine Kendrick thought, like, just in case this happens, I want to make sure that he's cool with it. And I'm pretty sure Pouncey probably doesn't really care either way. When the time comes, that number will be retired in the Ring of Honor for the Steelers.
Yeah, it's always tough with jersey numbers because there's so many players on the team. They have to give out these jerseys. So only like the best really could have their jersey retired or basically put off to the side. I mean, they only retired two jersey numbers throughout the Steelers' history. So, it did seem a little bit too soon, I guess. But I mean, at the same time, like, there's other Steeler greats that have their numbers released. 92 is out there. What's another one?
Benny Snell took 26 from Le'Veon Bell one season after he left.
Yeah, 20. Le'Veon, he did have a rocky relationship with the Steelers towards the end. So the same thing with Harrison too. The same thing happened, but Jack Hand's number 59 has been handed out prior. I don't think it's been handed out recently, but the year after he retired, I saw Bob Laverola said that they gave it to another player. So it does happen, but like you mentioned, I don't think Pouncey really cares too much. It's probably not a big deal.
Yeah, and especially with the laxing of number restrictions, and I think if it came down to it, Green would give up the number. So yeah, it's a non-story.
He said that he just asked for it, and he was ready to for them to say no or whatever, and they said fine. Here's number 53.
Yeah, it'd be like that sometimes. But let's quickly go over the rest of the Steelers draft picks. Well, I guess we could talk about Quincy Rochet. Rochet is now moving from defensive end to outside linebacker. And even though he's a 6th-round pick, there's many people saying that this could be the backup pass rusher in the 3-4 for the Steelers right out of rookie minicamp, really out of training camp. And when you look at the position outside linebacker-wise, it makes sense because the other guy was Ola Adaney, and he's with Bud Dupree out in Tennessee.
Yeah, and he mentioned, too, that when he was at Miami and Temple, that he did play up, too, because he was a defensive end, so they're standing up. He had his hand in the dirt, so he is comfortable dropping back into coverage and everything.
Yeah.
So, and did you hear about that? He gave, he's from Baltimore, so he grew up a Ravens fan. His family, all his family members are Ravens fans. So the Steelers sent them a bunch of terrible towels, and he said that he passed them out, and he said he's trying to convert them to be Steelers fans. So slowly but surely, they probably will join the other side, or they will. It's a family member, family over, fanhood, I guess.
Oh, wow, what a story.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting because with Rochet, of course, 4-3 is kind of an interesting formation. It's really, especially in college, like those defensive ends are always converted from outside linebackers in 3-4s and stuff like that. And plus, college players are generally smaller. So, yeah, I don't expect an issue with Rochet moving over. What else can we talk about? There's also Trey Norwood and of course the 7th-round punter, our favorite player, Presley Harvin III.
Yeah, Chris Carter wrote a good story about Presley Harvin III. Said that he wants to be a trailblazer for African American punters because he mentioned that there's only a handful out there. I mean,
yeah,
the punter for the Raiders a couple of years ago, Marquette King.
It would be nice. It would be nice to see him do really well out there. And plus, again, I'm hyped for it because if you're spending a punter in that round, that means you're probably going to start the guy. And he brings a lot of interest to the position. I mean, I guess this is like the Steelers organization's makeup for never getting Pat McAfee on board. So I mean, you got to give some of the people some excitement. And again, I have high expectations for him. They haven't spent a punter pick since Sepulveda, and when Sepulveda was healthy, he played a difference, especially with Steelers teams that, while eventually went on to win the Super Bowl and all that stuff, they really need field position help, and really, I'm expecting this guy to boot balls into coffin corners. I want to see teams backed up at the 1 and just allow the defense to pin its ears back, because that would really help them this season and beyond.
I think he's definitely going to beat out Jordan Berry. I mean, they spent a 7th-round pick on a punter, and he has a great resume too. He won the Ray Guy Award last year, the award for the best punter in college football, and he averaged I think it was 48 yards per punt last year. So I mean, that's a great numbers there. And he has Kevin Colbert said that he has a real strong leg. He's just naturally built. I think he squats like 700 pounds. He's a really big lower body and strong legs. Obviously, there to be a punter. But I'm excited for Harvin as well.
And of course, we also had a little bit of talk about the undrafted people, and I want to make sure people get this. Shakur Brown, he went to Woodland High School in Georgia. He's not from Woodland Hills, Pennsylvania. We apologize about that.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah. We cut that out in the new podcast cuts, but of course it's still available on YouTube, so we want to make sure you know that. He is from Woodland High School in Georgia, not Woodland Hills. Lamont Wade, he's from Clarendon.
And then Marcus Gilbert, the cornerback for Duke, he's from North Carolina, but he is related to Sean Gilbert and Darrell Reeves here in Aliquippa.
So at least there's a couple slices of Pittsburgh flavor out there for you. So, learn more about those undrafted guys. But really, I want to talk about the undrafted defensive backs because, again, you're replacing an undrafted free agent that got some big money somewhere else. So the Steelers at least have shown that they're capable of developing an undrafted corner defensive back out there. And of course, Trey Norwood is the 7th-round pick for the Steelers who will compete for that slot corner job. He did it towards the end of his time at Oklahoma, even though he's listed as a safety. So, what are you looking to see out of these guys in the future?
For the undrafted guys.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't. We'll have to wait and see training camp. It's kind of tough to see right now. We'll have more of a glimpse here in the next couple of weeks with OTAs and stuff, and you hear what the reporters say about them. But I think it's kind of like an open battle there for that slot position. I think one of these guys, I think that these undrafted guys, I think could make a role as possibly like the number 4 or like number 5 cornerback. Play on special teams and everything, and maybe a couple other guys go to the practice squad. So I think there is a spot to be had for the Steelers in the cornerback position.
Yeah, you hope that the Steelers can probably go find a veteran free agent out there that can provide some mileage out there corner and help out these guys. But hey, if they believe they can build a guy, why not give them a shot? So Chris, that's really all we have about the schedule release and also rookie minicamp. I'm trying to think of what's really next on horizon for the Steelers.
OTAs, but even that's kind of iffy of like who will show up, because like NFLPA is kind of like at battle right now with the NFL about that. I read an article in the Post Gazette. They said that had 80 plus, or no, the Jets had 80 plus players show up to their practice facility Monday. Broncos had more than 70, and the Giants had at least 40. So 40 is not a lot when you think about it's like a 90-man roster. So it should be interesting to see what happens with the Steelers here.
I've been hearing about things where they're also with, like, the players are for the NFLPA with that. So again, that's going to be something to look out for. But really, aside from that, we've reached the part of the schedule where it's going to be tough to talk about a lot of things for us. There's no more NFL draft to obsess over. I mean, if you're absolutely bat crap insane, you can go talk about 2022. We've had written some articles about, potentially the Steelers could pick up a Spencer Rattler or someone in there. There was a quarterback from the University of Cincinnati, Bo Nix, Ian Book, so many other people that the Steelers could pick up next year, because quarterback, they're expecting with Roethlisberger retiring, is going to be a glaring need for this team, among other things.
It's just tough a year out. I remember mock drafts last year had the Steelers selecting Jamie Newman in the first round, and he ended up being undrafted. So it's really, really hard to say. He opted out too with the COVID situation. So, it's hard to know with a year out from the draft, really.
Yeah. Strange times ahead for Steelers fans, but we'll be able to get through them together. And Chris, thank you for coming on with this. We wanted to be short episode, but it's clear we went over the time limit here.
Yeah, it kind of once we got into the schedule, we're like, okay, we didn't plan on doing a record, prediction for this, but we just kind of got into it, and we went off, and there's no going back, really.
Of course, that prediction can change over time. The more information we know, the more this team looks as. Also, even though there's 3 preseason games generally with this new 17th game, the Steelers, because why not, still have to go with 4 preseason games as, Hall of Fame game against the Cowboys. So it's only fitting that the Steelers have one more reminder of how life used to be with 4 preseason games before 17 regular season games, and hopefully 4 playoff games. Hopefully we want it. We will still have information on our website, therenegadeblitz.com, updating you with all types of Steelers news and stuff like that. And plus, we'll come back on when applicable. And Chris, before we go, we want to give some congratulations out there to the owner of the Renegade Blitz, Zach Napolitano. He will be having his first baby girl and his 3rd child overall with his wife, Jamie. So we want to wish him a congratulations there.
Congrats to Zach and the family. That they had the gender reveal yesterday. And did you watch the video? That was something else to see that they revealed that he would have his first girl.
Yeah, it's great for him. And, He gets to be a girl dad, just like the Kobe Bryant situation, just to give a little tie-in to the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame happening over the weekend. So, again, congratulations to him. Really happy for him. For Chris Ward, I'm Ty Polk. Thank you for tuning in to the Renegade Blitz. Thank you for listening to the Renegade Blitz podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz. Read articles on renegadeblitz.com and like us on Facebook. Our podcast is available on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, YouTube, iHeart, and Spotify.